All right. I guess we clocked in. Let's check out the sound. How do we? I guess everything's good. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. It's definitely a pleasure to have you here. I go by the name of L'Esprit. I am a spiritual healer. And technically, as a spiritual healer, what I do is that I help you to become mentally and emotionally balanced. And ultimately, by having your intellect or your mental and your emotion balance, it's technically, you know, helping you to attain a higher state of consciousness. That's essentially what I do as a spiritual healer. Now, it's pretty much the idea of mind, body, and soul in terms of, you know, um, being able to have to be mentally balanced or even to be emotionally balanced. Now, when I'm talking about being emotionally balanced, I'm definitely referring to you understanding how your emotions are being created, then for you to identify your emotional pattern, and then, in other words, it's for you to master your emotions. But just like anything else, you cannot master anything if you don't know how it operates. To make it yours, I mean, it's only right that you understand how it works. Same thing when it comes to, you being mentally balanced. Then you would have to understand how your emotions, I'm sorry, how your mental or your intellect is being conditioned, is being shaped. How were you trained to think? Do you see what I'm saying? Once you're able to understand that, that's how you become mentally balanced. Because at this point, you can't be mentally balanced or you can't have control over your mind if your mind is being controlled by someone else. It wouldn't make sense. Do you see what I'm saying? But again, that's where, I always tell people your spirituality is your humanity because all of your transcendence or your attainment of knowledge is going to come from the reality that you're living. It's technically you having a deeper understanding of this reality right here right now, and that's what your spirituality is. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's when you understand that this realm, or it's called Maya, meaning the world of illusion. Then you understand simply what that means. It's not what it appears to be. So when we look at our nature, it's almost like I would have to say we're like knowledgeable beings. I mean, for lack of better terms. But what I'm truly trying to say, we're thinking beings. Because you realize everything we do relies on what we know. That's why we say, and you hear it all the time, you want to change your life, you already know what you gotta change. Change your thinking. They telling you want to be a millionaire, will act like not only you are adapting that vibration, but most importantly, you gotta think like. So I'm saying all of that to say, I guess I'm jumping ahead of my conversation here. Which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, as you see in the title. But essentially, as a spiritual healer, if this is your first time here, I help you to have a deeper consciousness about who you are. And I pretty much do so by helping you to become mentally and emotionally balanced. It's everything I just said. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper here. So now, as a spiritual healer, my niggas, those of you who are coming back, come on, hurry up, baby. Oh, shit, I ain't stopping. But it's always a pleasure to have you guys back. You already know what this is. To me, it's each one teach one. It's all about love, but most importantly, is sharing who I am with you. Sharing my gift is living to me. Do you see what I'm saying? It's doing my father's work in so many words. So, with that being said, you already know what we do here. As a spiritual healer, come get your medicine. We have a whole lot of it. In fact, I'm a walking cabinet, baby. You know what I'm saying? So I got it for you. So now, welcome back, niggas. You already know. And just by the way, I do say niggas. I understand, especially in spirituality, it shouldn't be a language that is used. But to my defense, it's just a cultural thing. Do you see what I'm saying? I came from Haiti. You know what I'm saying? Like we say nigga like it's nothing. Like the president of Haiti, for instance, would be, this is the president here giving out a speech. We had a meeting with these niggas. Those niggas didn't do this. The niggas didn't do that. So it's not personal. You know what I'm saying? So you gonna hear a whole bunch of niggas. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's just a cultural thing. Hey, hey. So, my niggas, those of you who are coming back, you already know. You already know. You already know. It's nothing but love, baby. Now, mm, mhm, let me get my shit now. Let me get my shit. Now, as a spiritual healer, the foundation of my teaching, the foundation of everything that I do is based on spirituality. So, therefore, as a spiritual healer, it's only right for me to give you a brief description of what my definition of spirituality is, to be politically correct. But as you can see, spirituality derives from spirit. So technically, spirituality is simply telling you about the journey of the spirit. And now, just in case, if you're having a little bit of trouble understanding who they are referring to, well, my dudes, my niggas, it's you. This is you in your regular life. Now, there's been a lot of misconception, unfortunately, when it comes to spirituality, because most people look at it as something that's outside of. And also, that is due to what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is technically your biggest enemy. It's not your ego, it's not your shadow self, but it's your lack of knowledge. In other words, ignorance. But anyway, let's get back into spirituality. I guess it had to be said. Now, to get back to what spirituality is, when you look at spirituality as being outside of you, that train of thoughts come from the way you were raised, meaning you have not been trained to look at yourself as more than flesh and bones. So you always identify yourself with the external stuff. So therefore, when there we are talking about spirituality, so therefore your interpretation of it is like, okay, it's over there. But also it's out of ignorance because you don't understand your true nature. Because when you really look at it, to say to change your life, your life is to change your mind or to change your thinking. Well, what does that say about us? Everything we do is based on our knowledge, based out of our knowledge. You do stupid shit, or you are stupid, meaning you are limited, you have a limited consciousness. Well, guess what? That's the result that you're going to get. There's no way outside of that. So, again, to say that is to say, what is our true nature? So, therefore, you realize we are thinking being. Everything we do is based It's based out of our knowledge. That's what you see all the fucking everybody's talking about. I was watching a 50 Cent documentary. This nigga was talking about, you know what I'm saying, why the fuck would you want to hang out with someone, you know what I'm saying, who's stupid or who's dumber than you? What the fuck are you going to learn? Those were his words. So essentially, we are all talking about it, although we don't delve too much into it. And that's where becoming spiritual plays a big part because now you have acknowledged that part of you, meaning you have activated that part of you. But everybody's spiritual because we are all talking about it. I mean, it's all spirit, but we're talking about different levels of understanding. So the fact that our life, or we are living or thinking beings, if you want to put it that way, having the ability to learn more. And when we talk about spirituality or consciousness, or to attain the Christ consciousness, my bad, we're simply referring to attaining a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of knowledge, a higher state of thinking. Then you become the enlightened one. That's all that shit is. So to look at spirituality as something that's outside of you or is just religion, it comes from a limited perspective. Again, due to ignorance, you not knowing your true nature. Because to understand your true nature, again, is to delve into yourself, to realize that just like we were talking about, if we're saying, our life is based on our thinking, or the more we learn, the more we could do. I mean, shit, that's pretty much what it comes down to. That's why I tell people stop listening to relationship advice. It's not gonna do you any good if you're a fucking asshole. It's almost like you think you're gonna have a good relationship and you're a dumb motherfucker. Nah, man. Relationship has to do with how you relate to other people. So the more you grow as a person, the better your relationship is going to be. Period. Either a romantic relationship, a fucking relationship, a buddy relationship is going to be better in all levels. Why? Because you have reached a different state of consciousness. And that's pretty much what it comes down when it comes to everything else. To treat somebody else as you want to be treated or as they are, depending on, whatever the fuck the situation is, it all comes down to you. That's why a big part in the occult or spirituality will tell you know yourself and everything else. I mean, and you will see, knowing thyself and you'll be set free. What this is talking about, when you know your true nature, that's how you transcend this reality. And your true nature is this. You are your flesh and bones and more. Not just one part of your reality. You are everything. So, just to summarize, spirituality is nothing but the story of your life. And now it's being said in many different ways. It's being said through fucking religion, different cultures, but ultimately, it's talking about you, how you see the world, your perspective of the world. Because you also got to keep in mind, God means nothing without you. It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? If I believe in Allah, you believe in Jesus. What do Allah has on you? Allah has no motherfucking things on you. In fact, you don't even think about this motherfucker. All you talk about is Jesus, and vice versa. If I believe in Allah, here I'm saying fuck Jesus. I mean, of course, I may not say it that way. Or if I'm a Buddhist, well, the Buddhists are a little bit different. They embody other cultures and things like that. But ultimately, I mean, I'm trying to get you to understand, you know, believe it or not, you are the one creating your God, baby. Yeah. Okay, let's just say if you didn't create it, you accept it. Then based on your whatever your God definition is, and guess what? Your life revolved around that. So to think spirituality is outside of you, that's yeah, that's the biggest misconception. So again, so this is what I truly wanted to talk about tonight. So, when we talk about even your ego, because I hear a lot of people say your ego is your biggest enemy. It's not true. Not at all. I mean, if you're looking at it from the surface, maybe, but to fully grasp it, your ego has nothing to do with it. Your ego is being conditioned based on the knowledge that you feed it, based on the knowledge that you have. Now, I understand why we talk a lot about the ego in our culture because we were trained to be greedy. We were trained to self, accomplishment. Because that's how you are being conditioned in this society. From the very young age, you learn how to live your life based on who you should be instead of who you are. So when you're living in a world that thinks that way, hell yeah, what you calling the ego is gonna be, yeah. Shit. Why the fuck not? That's why you're living in a world where a lot of us are seeking for validation. Why the fuck not? It's common sense. I mean, I wouldn't say common sense, but it's almost like, well, shit, good job. That's why even in the Matrix, they would call us the anomaly. So we're not the normal ones because the normal ones, I mean, congratulations, you you got the memo because that's what you've been trained to think about or to be like. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you start to follow yourself, I mean, you cannot be a people pleaser. I mean, it doesn't go. I mean, it can't. Even if you wanted to, you can't do it. Even if I wanted to please you, I can't do it. Now, as I'm pleasing myself, if you happen to be pleased, by all means, congratulations. You know what I'm saying? But again, your ego is not your enemy. So what we're truly talking about here, so if you understand, knowledge is your biggest enemy, or lack of knowledge, I should say, it's your biggest enemy. The only reason why we refer to the ego, that's because we don't have enough knowledge. We have not fully grasped it or understand it. Or I should say, we do not have the proper knowledge that would allow you to expand your ego. Because all the spiritual master does, we just feed ourselves a different type of knowledge. We get to see the reality a little bit deeper. We get to see it for more than what it looks like. For instance, like for me, I will never compete with anybody. Not because of I don't have an ego, or not because nah, I understand. Yo, everybody's is different. This is just knowledge. I mean, if you understand it, you understand it. Even with the niggas that do the same thing that I do, like they're gonna do it the way they do it. I can only be me. You know what I'm saying? So if you grasp that, I mean, it may sound humble, whatever the fuck you want to call it, but it's just a deeper reality, man. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to be nice. It's just fucking reality. Or at least to me, based on my consciousness, based on the things or the knowledge I've been feeding myself. Another one is that we all need each other. Not want, we all need each other. This clothes that I'm wearing, I didn't I didn't make it. Yeah, I did. Obviously, I had the money to buy it. But what would my money means if that person didn't create it or fabricated it, however the fuck you want to call it. That's why I always tell people, man, if it's not for poor people, rich people would have to eat, you would have to eat your money. Isn't that reality? If you got $1 million right now and it's fucking 3 o'clock in the morning, all fucking restaurants are closed, what are you gonna do? The $1 million is just you have more access to shit, but shit gotta be there for you to have more access to. That has nothing to do with being humble, none of that shit. That's why I always tell people when it comes to, like that's why in African spirituality, you wouldn't hear people talk about so much about the ego. It's a European perspective in our culture where we talk about the ego. What they talk about is the false self. That's a whole different thing. The false self, which is pretty much you trying to be something that you're not instead of you. That's what they call the false self. And that's why the Buddhists, I'll give you a perfect example. They say the word namaste to everybody. In fact, they say to the motherfucker who's not conscious, or I should say, who's not conscious enough. So technically, what they're saying is, despite my understanding, I know that you and I are the same. And we are. The only difference is it's my level of understanding. That's all it is. It ain't like I got 3 legs, you got two, nigga. The fuck? So again, feeding yourself that type of knowledge, I like to call it eating from the tree of life. The knowledge of life automatically will expand your ego. So your ego is not your fucking issue. It's the knowledge. What type of knowledge? What tree are you eating from? Good or evil? Good and evil? Or the tree of life? Good and evil, we're talking about duality here, separation, competition. Us over here, always us, never them. That kind of talk. I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. Creating that one sided perspective. Whereas, shit, think about this alone, right? If you embrace both, like, you mean to tell me, Democrat or Republican, neither one of these motherfuckers have valuable points? They both sound good to me. Why should I choose one of them? That's my question to you. Why should I be either one of them? Because they both have perfect fucking perspective. Now, granted, every situation is going to be different, If you embody both parties, then at times, okay, I may sound like a Republican saying this because that's what works in this particular instance. And then I'm going to be like a Democrat in this particular instance because that's what suit that situation better. So when you embrace both sides, you have a broader perspective. And that's also the foundation of what African spirituality is all about in terms of, ma'at, balance, harmony, the yang and the yang. But when you choose a side, well, you are missing out. Because you can't tell me, let's just say either or, I don't give a fuck. Let's just say, okay, you're a Republican, you said fuck Democrat. Like they don't have anything good? What are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? It doesn't make sense. But again, that comes down to you eating from the tree of good and evil. That duality. It's got to be on a scale of 1 to 10, man. Come on. I know you're saying you both of them, but on a scale of 1 to 10, which one are you? Like a little more. I hear that all the time. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll give you 10, motherfucker. On a scale of 1 to 10, fuck me. You got 10. You're playing yourself. So your true enemy is not your ego at all, but a lack of knowledge. That's what your issue is. Your true enemy is your lack of wisdom. Same thing with your shadow self too. Because you got to understand, the reason why we got to do our shadow work is because we have separated the shadow from us. So if you understand, for instance, we're living in a world where you gotta be what you live in your life based on something you should be like. So then you are suppressing your essence. Oh, this is suicide, to be honest, if you're asking me. So by you suppressing those things, well, guess what? And you being a thinking being or spirit, for lack of, I mean, shit, a living mind. That's exactly who you are. If you being that, well, I mean, well, guess what? That's why people are being triggered. That's why a lot of people are sleepwalking. That's when your shadow becomes your monster now. And then that's what you're gonna have to slay. I get it. But this is where all of that derives, comes from lack of knowledge, ignorance. And that's the foundation of the fucking illusion. The minute you say this over that, or that over this, that's where the illusion is. That's the foundation for it. Now, there is a movie, I think it's called Seven, with Brad Pitt and my man Morgan Freeman. It's a Gnostic movie, right? But keep in mind, the Gnostics, they're all Christian niggas, just a step above the regular Christian nigga. But essentially, they talking about the same thing, good and evil. Now, the regular Christian on one level, what I'm saying, will tell you, about not partying, what I'm saying, not doing something, not smoking, not drinking, what I'm saying. Then the Gnostic now takes that shit on a whole different level now. It's like it's just your nature. These niggas are trying to tell you Like if you see that movie, it's just being born automatically. That's where your flaw is. That's essentially what they're saying. So what they're also doing by doing that is to suffocate or to remove the spirit in you. Because if you acknowledge the spirit in the world that you're living in, well, it's never like just your nature to be dumb. It's ignorance. Because here I'm sharing the same space with you. I don't see it that way. Again, it all comes down to fucking ignorance. So they have a gloomy perspective of this world. It's a dark way of looking at shit. And then they remove, like, because even if you were to delve into it, greed. It's like what they're trying to say is human nature to be greedy. No, that's not true. You've been conditioned to be greedy, motherfucker. Nobody's just naturally greedy, motherfucker. Not at all. I'm sorry. I mean, if you a kid, you appear to be that way, again, out of ignorance. That's when the training comes in. That's what enlightenment is all about, isn't it not? Which is also the nature that you're sharing in this world. The Matrix talks about, okay, how do you talk about reality, right? And then if you were in a dream, you felt it, you live it, right? And you were not able to wake up from it. What this is truly telling you, how do you choose a certain this reality and refute that reality? How do you do that when you experience both of them? Again, keeping the Democrat shit and the Republican shit in your mind. How the fuck do you do that? And then you having debate on that too. It's like, wow. You know what I'm saying? It's already bad as is. And now you building on that. That's crazy to me. If you asking. And I'm gonna tell you anyway, motherfucker. Shit, nigga. That shit's crazy. So when we talking about, I mean, it all comes down to your true enemy is pretty much ignorance. Because when you're ignorant, you don't know it until you become enlightened. Then that's when you can confess. You know what I'm saying? Like I always tell people, if you can't tell me how stupid you used to be, play it. You ain't got to tell me nothing else. Because everybody I know, you got to have a story to tell. Isn't that what the whole becoming and changing is all about? That's why death plays a big part in this world. I'm all about dying, baby. Because death is simply living one form of life to another, one reality to another. As a kid, I don't talk like I was like that kid I used to be. Well, that's growth. So, in other words, that's why they tell you too. For you to become your own man, you have to kill your mom and dad. Well, not literally. I mean, I would hope that you understand it. But fuck it. What they're saying is it's not literally, but becoming your own person. Not necessarily not I'm sorry, not necessarily neglecting them, but with what it was given to you, depending on what was given to you too. You know, how are you able to translate that into the person that you are? How does that fit with you? And if it doesn't fit with you, hey, there you go. You got to slay them motherfuckers. Come on now. You got to slay them. Because ultimately, and I had a recording where I already talk about that, when you're dealing with people's shadow, in most families, what they talking even or okay, so we always say that shit in black culture, right? We're talking about the slave mentality. Well, that's the shadow self. Yes, massa, and that's being translated into your kids. You beating your kids down. That's the way you gotta act. I mean, that's what you know. Again, you're dealing with the shadow self, and when the kid wants something else, then that's a bad kid, man. No, 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 no. So we're dealing with other people's shadow too. Again, just to show you the complexity in the being that we are. Another way of saying that, to show you that we're not just as we appear to be. In other words, we are what we look like and more. And anybody you're going to deal with, you're going to have to deal with their shadow. I don't give a fuck. Now, it could be a healthy shadow self if that person is dealing with their shadow work, meaning now they are in harmony. They're not suppressing that other side of them. They embody. You got to dance with your shadow. Just like your ego is not your enemy, your shadow self is not your enemy either. You have no fucking enemy, but lack of knowledge, ignorance. Because regardless of what you're saying about the ego, regardless of what you're saying about the shadow self, with the appropriate knowledge, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. So, in other words, I'm saying it's also in your nature. The spirit is also part of your nature, is it not? That's why when I was referring to that movie, it's like it's one sided. They're looking at this world from one perspective. Like if you come over here, death. I mean, you're definitely gonna die. Is death a bad thing? Is any of the transition? Well, just like I was born. Yes, you're gonna die. What makes death a bad thing? Those are portals, is it not? Again, it's all about the top. How are you looking at this world? Then, if it's a portal, if you were born, well, I mean, you come in, you gotta go out. Isn't this considered a bridge? If this is a bridge, so I mean, you're not here to stay. How is death a bad thing? I don't know if I should say this, but anyway, I'll say this much. In one of my traveling, because I fuck with spirit and shit. You know what I'm saying? Spirit and shit. I remember I was talking to one of my ancestors. You know what I'm saying? And then we were talking because I needed to learn more about the other world. I mean, that was my whole purpose of traveling. But most importantly, what I realized, it's not just the other world that I wanted to learn, it's to have a better understanding of this world. So the brother I was talking to, he was saying how, people on earth, man, like their interpretation of death. That's why we can't tell them when somebody's gonna die. And meanwhile, once that person transition, this nigga who died, depending on, what I'm saying, is partying like a motherfucker out there. Here you are crying, that motherfucker's like is living. But all of that is due to our ignorance. So your biggest enemy, my friend, it's not your ego. It's not your shadow self. It's not your human, I don't know, flesh or condition. Because when you tap into within, when you tap within, That's why, as it is within, so it is without. See, when you start looking at it this way, it's almost like the outside doesn't exist. You want to make the world a better place? Make yourself a better place. Seek the kingdom of God, everything else will be given to you. So that's why knowing thyself, your true nature, sets you free. You know, it's a lot of misconception that we have, based on a being on a one-sided perspective. And even the definition of the ego, a lot of people have, I mean, some people look at the ego, they confuse your individuality with your ego. In other words, I'll give you a perfect example, right? Like, I love watch. I'm a watch nigga. And and this is the funny thing, being a fucking empath, all my watch don't work, even if I change the battery because of my energy. The only difference with this one, I mean, it's a rechargeable one. It's one of those, how do you call it, Android, whatever the fuck. Now with this one here, I'm good. I mean, I might suck in the energy. I mean, I may have to charge it a little more often, but ultimately, it's not. I mean, it's not like, because I have a lot of watch. Like, you could ask me for the time, nigga. Like, I wear that shit for fashion. I love watches. So I listen to people that's talking about individuality. They would say that's your ego. So to get rid of your ego, you got to do what everybody else is doing. Like, what? Again, out of ignorance. Your individuality doesn't prevent you from growing. In fact, it adds to it. The whole idea of the Father and Son. Jesus told you, right? I'm in the Father is in me. And they say Father and Son. So there's two distinct or unique perspective here, but yet they're one. So no, your ego is not your enemy. Your ego is definitely not. How can I say this? It's not your individuality, and your individuality doesn't stop you or doesn't prevent you from attaining Christ consciousness. However, ignorance do though. Lack of knowledge do. You not having a better understanding of the ego will definitely hold you back. You not embracing your shadow self will definitely fuck you up. That's when you'll see people who are being triggered. They don't know what the fuck's happening with them. You know what I'm saying? A lack of openness, or them not knowing who they truly are. You know what I'm saying? Acting, look at people pleasers. They're seeking for validation. So now their shadow now have, they pretty much overpower them. That's their monster. So you're dealing with that. Like for me, that's when I know when I'm dealing with someone or I'm dealing with their shadow, because the energy is going to be heavy. But that would be more on a energetic level. But again, like, well, I would know it. When you see people who are not being accountable, we love to say that, but we're not looking at what's taking place underneath it all. They truly don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, yo, like I always tell this, I know this hoe, right? She'll say everybody else, oh yeah, she's a hoe, she's a hoe, she's a hoe. What makes her a hoe? Well, she fuck with everybody, anybody fuck. The whole community's fuck. I'm like, okay. Do you fuck the whole community? Yes, but I'm not a hoe. Okay, so what makes a hoe a hoe then? See, their shadow self doesn't allow them to see that reality about them because they've been suppressing who they are. That's why you'll see a lot of these people, they're living a double life or they're Decepticons, energy vampires. Decepticons meaning everything that they do is to deceive you because they don't know how to be who they are. If you're not true to yourself, you'll never be true to anybody else. Let me say that again. If you're not true to yourself, you'll never be true to nobody else. And guess what? You can even love anybody else. And you will not even allow anybody to love you either. Like, fuck you talking about? Like, nah, man, you can't see my true side. That's like you married a bitch, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't see, her real hair. That's crazy. So you know what you got in your hand, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Good luck. Have a great relationship. You know what I'm saying? And then here we are now looking for relationship advice and not knowing that, you know what I'm saying, it's you. And I think in one of my last recordings, I was actually talking about that, about how, like you're not gonna have good relationship when you're not a better person. So I was talking about how do you can't put new wine into old bottles, man. It's not gonna work. Check out my other channel, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Because in that channel, that's exactly what I do. And I've been posting a whole lot over there because I realize, a lot of those wise, let's just say, quotes or proverb or let's just say wise saying, however you want to label it, right? Those are fully loaded statements. See, that's the power of word too. It's not what you say, but it's how it's being said. And our ancestors understood that. That's why we've been hip hopping way before hip hop hit. If you read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this shit is all poetry, man. Because that's the power of words. How it's being put together, it allows you, it gives you a different perspective. Or even if that's not the case, but it allows you to reflect on it. That's why when you hear certain quotes, you're like, some people like to post them just to show that they have knowledge. But these things are meant for you to live. Do you want to sound smart or do you want to be smart? I'll leave that up to you. I'll tell you, shit, nigga, I want to be smart. So again, even in that perspective, what the fuck does my ego has to do with this? How are you feeding yourself? Or what type of food are you feeding yourself? You see what I'm saying? I'm not here to sound cute, nigga. I mean, shit, being the light. I mean, we're gonna sound like we sound like because we are the light. It comes with it. But this is for the living. You see what I'm saying? How can I talk about this shit and live a different life? Nah, man. I talk about what I live, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Then I would be cheating myself. It wouldn't make sense. I don't know. I cheated myself in the past. I'm not doing that anymore. In fact, I had to. So now I appreciate myself. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? And trust me, once you get to see yourself, once you get to embrace it, nigga, there's no going back, man. The reward is that in itself, the ecstasy. You know what I'm saying? Like you knowing who you are, it's like shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I see niggas. You know what I'm saying? You can't fool me. How you gonna fool me? I know me. You could tell me what I am when I didn't know myself. But that's why I always tell people you have to materialize your spirituality. The divinity, those divine words, those knowledge has to become flesh. You have to adopt that. You are the Christ. You have to become that. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking. You sound good, but if you're not being that, I mean, okay, well, keep sounding good. I mean, like I said, do you want to sound smart or do you want to be smart? And when you're being smart, you're not worrying about sounding smart because that's who you are. Whereas when you're trying to sound smart, well, shit, you already know. That's when, you're just talking your shit. Literally your shit. Mm. Come on now, you dying on me? Come on now, you can't be dying on me like that. Hmm. So again, to get back to the subject at hand, your enemy is a lack of knowledge. What prevents anybody from becoming conscious is a lack of knowledge, it's ignorance. That's why it's important for whoever, a light worker, however you want to label it, prophets, light worker, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, chosen ones, whatever name you want to label that, you gotta walk both paths, and meaning you gotta be aware of the darkness. And someone who's in the dark, they don't walk the light. That's why they're afraid of the light, meaning they're all one sided. And if they don't know the light, that's why they don't know that they're stupid. A toxic person doesn't know that they're toxic until you reach that higher level. Only then can you say, man, you know what I'm saying? Brother used to be toxic, dog. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong, baby. We all went through it. We all had our little toxicity. In fact, it was needed. That's why now, for me personally, I can embrace this thing here. Do you see what I'm saying? But I mean, that's what growth is, isn't it not? Growth changes, becoming, forever evolving. That means you got to come from one state of mind to another. And as you get into that other or greater state of mind, now you can see what was happening, what was taking place. Or I could share that with somebody else. And that's why us, if you want to call us light worker, we have to embrace and know what the science of ignorance is. And that's how we walk both paths. Or if you want to be a blade, you know what I'm saying? A day walker and a night walker. You walk both paths. And that walking of, or the understanding of what the fuck? What's the lighter? That understanding of your, let's just say, of the dark side is you being aware of it. Because you can't do your shadow work if you're not aware of your shadow. Like, what kind of shadow work are you going to do? What kind of shadow work is that? Mm-hmm. Mm. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. So the name of the game, my friend, my dear friends out there, is consciousness. Your purpose on here is consciousness. And that's why you have to embrace the science of ignorance, but most importantly, embrace ignorance too. That's why the light and the dark, they shadow into one another. And that's what we understand in African spirituality. That's why we call it a ma'at, harmony. So I'm going to leave it there. You know what I'm saying? So again, your enemy, your greatest enemy, is a lack of ignorance. And you see that even in your parents. You know what I'm saying? Like what you're dealing with is their fucking ignorance. Or, their bright side, depending if they have evolved. If they have not evolved, well, you already know. That's where the term narcissist, toxicity, all these things comes from. Again, this is your regular life. Your spirituality makes you a better human being. And ironically, that's how you transcend this reality. Now I'm gonna leave it there. I sent. Ali.